Hello drummers and YouTubers. Tim Connolly coming back to you with an awesome video today, top 10 greatest drummers of all time, also known as the GOATs of drumming. So I have a list here that I've compiled of my personal top 10 plus 3 honorable mentions because, as everyone knows who does these kind of videos, it is really hard to come up with the top 10 list because it's just hard to cut people out. It really is. I could come up with a all-time greatest 50 list if I really had to, But I had to narrow it down to 10 because 50 is just too many. So here is my top 10. I'm really excited. Let's get started. Number 10, the infamous, the illustrious Dave Grohl from Nirvana. Now, Dave Grohl, what an influential drummer. I mean, Nirvana, incredible band. Dave Grohl, incredible rock drummer. So much energy. That guy has probably more energy than anybody on earth. It's unbelievable how much he puts into his playing. And every time he sits behind that drum set, you hear his energy and feel his energy when he's playing. You watch those old Nirvana videos of them playing live with hair everywhere. The guy is just crazy. But it was awesome. What an entertaining drummer to listen to and watch. So that's my number 10, Dave Grohl. Number 9, love this guy, Ian Paice, Deep Purple. Fantastic drummer. I can remember being a kid going to my brother's room and basically saying, what are you listening to? What is this guy doing on the drums? Those fills, those super fast 30-second note fills that he did on the snare, what an influence he was on me. The phrasing around the drum kit, the killer grooves, Smoke on the Water, that groove, legendary. I mean, this is a guy that's got incredible chops, incredible finesse, incredible technique, and groove on the drum kit. So Ian Paice, my number 9. Number 8, the infamous Phil Collins. Now, Phil Collins heavily influenced so many drummers over the years, it's mind-blowing. This is a guy who, I might add, considers himself a drummer first and a singer second. He's always said, I'm a drummer who sings, not a singer who drums. So Phil's got a lot of drumming integrity, there's no doubt about that. But listen, if you really are interested in checking out Phil, you've got to check out Genesis's early recordings such as Nursery Crimes, Foxtrot, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. I mean, these were incredible recordings with incredible drumming. Phil's drumming in the 80s on those pop tunes, pretty straight ahead. He's infamous for his drum fill on In the Air Tonight, the ba-bop, 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 bop. That's an infamous drum fill, but really, it's not really an example of how great Phil really is. I mean, that's popular and everybody knows it, but check out the less popular prog rock stuff of early Genesis days to hear mind-blowing drumming. Just incredible and heavily influencing me my entire life to this day. Love Genesis. They were just here in Toronto. I think last month. I think they were here in December. I unfortunately did not get to see them. Phil did not play drums, sadly. His son played drums, though, which is really cool. You get your kid playing drums. That's fantastic. Okay, moving along. Number 7, one of my favorite bands, Black Sabbath, Bill Ward. Bill Ward, legendary drummer. I can remember listening to The Wizard for the first time and just being blown away by the drumming. I mean, the drumming is showcased. I mean, Black Sabbath is one of those bands where, yes, there's Tony Iommi with his great riffs, and of course Ozzy's singing. Those are definitely featured, but Bill Ward's drumming was also heavily featured. Those tunes would not be as great as they are without Bill Ward behind that kit. Now, unfortunately, I saw Black Sabbath a little while ago, but it was not Bill Ward on drums, which was disappointing, but still, they sounded great, and the drummer did justice to all those great Black Sabbath songs. But if you listen to Bill Ward live with Sabbath in the early 70s, you get a real taste of how great Bill Ward really was. Number 6, The angriest of all our drummers on my list, Ginger Baker. Now, Ginger, what a fantastic drummer. The tom grooves and rhythmic patterns that he plays on his toms, heavily influenced by African rhythms, really comes out in everything that Ginger does. Of course, he's most famous for playing in Cream, but he was also in Blind Faith and Ginger Baker Air Force as well. He did many, many things. Ginger passed away a few years back, but another legendary drummer that will absolutely not be forgotten. Now, I have to say though, Ginger would not be happy about being on this list because he never considered himself a rock drummer. He would get so angry when interviewers would comment or ask him questions about what's it like to be one of the greatest rock drummers. And he would say, I'm not a rock drummer, you idiot. For Ginger, I love Ginger's interviews because he doesn't like to be interviewed. And he just thinks everyone asks him stupid questions. But when Ginger would be happy and when he would want to talk is when you talked about jazz. He loved Mel Lewis and Max Roach and Philly Joe Jones and Art Blakey and Elvin Jones, all the great jazz drummers. And if you asked Ginger, he would say, I'm a jazz drummer. Rock drumming, not even an issue. But if you listen to Ginger's drumming, obviously it's heavily influenced by jazz and African and blues and other forms of music, but essentially Cream was a blues rock band, okay? So that's how Ginger got on my list. I love Ginger, no disrespect to Ginger. He is on my rock drumming list. Sorry, Ginger. Number 5, the drummer that got me drumming in the first place, Ringo Starr of the Beatles. Now, some people would say, how is Ringo on the greatest drummers list of all time? Obviously, the Beatles are on the greatest band list of all time. They're number 1 in almost every list. Well, if the band is number 1, the drummer's got to be good, because let's be honest, without great drumming, you don't have a great band. Nobody can play like Ringo. He's a fantastic song and groove drummer. Is he a technical wizard like, say, Vinnie Colaiuta or Dave Weckl? No. I love Vinnie and I love Dave, but I wouldn't want to hear either one of them playing on those Beatle tracks. Yes, they're technically way beyond Ringo's comprehension even. But what Ringo played suited those songs. Ticket to Ride, Here Comes the Sun, She Said, Rain, She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, I Feel Fine with that mambo feel. I mean, there's brilliant drumming in the Beatles. Brilliant. So for someone to doubt that Ringo's on my list, well, that's crazy. Plus, if you know me, which obviously a lot of you don't, but you're gonna get to know me because I'm gonna be putting out lots of new videos. If you know me, you'll know I love Ringo, I love the Beatles, and Ringo, the most influential drummer of all time, in my opinion, arguably, but in my opinion, definitely one of the most influential of all time. Number 4, Keith the Loon Moon, the craziest. Ginger's the angriest, Keith's the craziest. What a party animal that guy was. Trashing hotel rooms, trashing drum sets, lighting up the toms, blazing fills, crazy grooves. It was a virtual drum solo through every song. You know, I mean, Who Are You? When he actually started using some hats, because prior to that, really, if you look at Ginger, he did not really use hi-hats. But Who Are You? Beautiful hi-hat work, brilliant drumming. I love every Who song. All the drums are so up in the mix, which was unusual at the time. A lot of the songs back in the 60s were more vocal heavy in terms of the way that they mixed them, and maybe even guitar heavy, and the drums were kind of in the background. Well, the Who changed that because Keith, he said, not only am I going to be featured in terms of what I play, but I'm going to be featured because you have no choice but to hear me, because I'm going to play so frickin' loud you got no choice but to hear me. So that was Keith. Beautiful player, awesome, sadly passed away tragically, but he will always be remembered and never forgotten. Legendary. Number 3, now we get down to the serious top 3 here. Number 3 on my list, one of my absolute heaviest influences in terms of what I play on the drums. I would check this guy out, Stuart Copeland from The Police. Now, I love The Police, great songs, but the drumming really stands out in those songs. That's going to be something you're going to see in my top 5 list here, is that the drums stand out in the bands. Now, I'm not just saying that because I'm a drummer. The songs do have drums featured in them. If you listen to the Police songs in particular, the drums are heavily featured, and Stuart blends African rhythms, Latin rhythms, Jamaican rhythms with contemporary music and rock music. He combines it all together, and that's the Stuart Copeland thing. You know, I love the way that, like, Walking on the Moon, that groove is just brilliant. Everything she does is magic. So Lonely, the early stuff right up to the later stuff, all of it is brilliant drumming, and Stuart probably going to be on everyone's list, really. At least he should be anyways. But I would like to mention, I really want to see your lists. So please like and subscribe my video and show me your top 10 list. Everybody's got a different list of who influenced them and who they love, and a lot of it depends on what you listen to and how old you are. That factors in as well. Definitely factors in. Number 2. Oh, this is a big one. This is big. Led Zeppelin's John Bonham. Bonzo. Incredible. Big fat sound. Those drums were just mind-blowing. The way that they sound. That snare drum and that bass drum. Killer. Listen to When the Levee Breaks. Probably one of the best drum sounds ever recorded in that song. Absolutely incredible. Kashmir as well as another one. Incredible drum sound. Now, John is a heavy influence to all drummers, practically. I would put him as probably the most influential of all drummers in terms of influencing people to want to play drums. And if you listen to the Led Zeppelin mixes, the way they were mixed, the drums were right out in front. Listen to Fool in the Rain. What a killer groove that is. I love that song, love that groove. And the drums are right up front, showcased, because, hey, you got the greatest drummer, let's feature him. And that is a perfect example. Moby Dick, a song with an entire 17-minute or 18-minute drum solo in it. It's a no-brainer. When you've got the best, showcase them. Now, we move to number 1. But before we get to number 1, I'm going to do a few honorable mentions of guys that I really love, but just didn't quite make the list, Nico McBrain from Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden's one of my favorite bands. Seen him live, met Nico. Fantastic player, fantastic guy. Funny as anything. Awesome. And his drumming, those triplets and everything that he plays, I'm so heavily influenced by the way that the fills that he does around the kit and the triplets that he likes to do between his hands and his feet. He's brilliant. So I have to mention Nico as definitely my top honorable mention. My next honorable mention, the legendary Mitch Mitchell from Jimi Hendrix. The song Fire, everybody talks about Purple Haze and all along the Watchtower and whatnot, but Fire was the song that really fired me up because the drumming is absolutely incredible in that song. Mitch was heavily influenced by jazz music, and you can hear it on a lot of Jimmy's music, where Mitch is taking old school jazz type patterns and applying them in a contemporary rock setting back in the 60s. Brilliant drumming. Check out Mitch Mitchell. And my last honorable mention, Alex Van Halen. What drum list can't mention Alex Van Halen? I had to mention it. Love Van Halen, love Alex. Hot for Teacher, in my opinion, the greatest intro, drum, groove, or phrase, whatever you want to call it. It's the greatest drum intro of all time is Hot for Teacher. So Alex definitely had to be on my list. I always loved Van Halen and heavily influenced by Alex's playing. Alex, he's one of those drummers that when he plays, you don't even have to be a drummer. Everybody knows it's Alex Van Halen playing drums because he's got such a distinct sound. Unlike any other drummer, Alex really has a very distinct sound, and you know it's Alex when he's playing. Okay, now to my number one, and you probably already know what it is because there's a very famous band and drummer that I've left off this list, and anyone that knows me knows that Neil Peart is my all-time favorite rock drummer. I mean, what can be said that already hasn't been said about Neil? The man is just brilliant songwriter, storyteller, drummer, percussionist, you name it, Neil did it all. Fantastic. I love, you know, some of the feature songs, of course, you know, his most popular song, Spirit of Radio rather, Tom Sawyer, stuff like that. You know, those songs made him famous, but if you listen to the early Rush stuff, off the second, third, fourth album, the drumming is just mind-blowing and phenomenal. YYZ being my feature favorite drum song. I mean, whenever I think of great drumming, that song always comes to mind. So Neil, influence? Heavy. He's influenced everybody. Him and John Bonham and Ringo, I think, are the top three in that order. Neil, and then Bonzo and Ringo. Top three most influential drummers that made drummers want to play, that made people want to pick up a pair of sticks. I mean, those three guys are just incredible in terms of how they've influenced generation after generation after generation. Sadly, Neil, Bonzo not around anymore. Ringo's still alive and kicking, happiest drummer. Unlike Ginger, Ringo's the happiest. Neil and Bonzo sadly passing away, but Neil recently, fairly recently, 2 years ago, I was devastated when Neil passed. I did have the pleasure of meeting him a few times. Asked him for drum lessons, but he turned me down. He said, go see Freddie Gruber. And Freddie, of course, was a legendary teacher who also has passed away. Man, we're just losing so many of these great rock stars. But anyways, on a happy note, thank you very much for tuning in on my top 10 greatest rock drummers of all time. Stay tuned. I'm going to be doing some jazz drumming, some prog rock drummers, and maybe some surprise stuff too. I've got a brand new relaunch to my channel coming up soon, and things are really getting excited in Tim Connolly drum world. Keep drumming, keep the groove. See ya.